Morning, everyone. So just to give you a brief outline of where we are and who we are. So obviously we're Novasco, and we've been working with AppCheck for a number of years. And I have been working with them for about 6 years since they kind of started out. Just a brief overview of what we're going to achieve today. A brief introduction of Novasco, what our security operations center looks like. AppCheck overview, the AppCheck demo, and then some next steps around that. So obviously since COVID-19, there's been a number of security challenges. What we've seen, other people remote working from home, increased VPN usage. There's been a significant increase in ransomware and malware attacks over the last couple of months. Cybercrime has increased fourfold. There's a huge financial impact to organizations around this, with a number of domains being set up every day for malicious activity. There's been an increase of phishing attempts via email. Talking to someone in Sophos, and they said it was about 667% increase of email attempts since the start of COVID-19. And surface attack scans have increased significantly. Attackers are now looking for open flaws and vulnerabilities to take advantage, obviously to try and get your information or your organization's details. And the adoption of unapproved software has increased significantly. The amount of people who have downloaded and ran Zoom, but it was over 200% in 1 month, and despite its obvious security flaws, which people are now pointing out to them. In terms of Novasco and what we've seen and what we've been doing, obviously we have a large security footprint across multiple accounts, and we've been providing lots of security consultancy and support to our customers. Within Novasco, we have a large security footprint. We've been providing lots of consultancy and support to our customers. We've been asked to do a number of secure VPN configurations and increases. We've been asked to provide web and email filtering solutions over the last couple of weeks. New firewall setups and configurations using the next generation firewall features. Lots of endpoint protection and increase in remediation of that. IDS and IPS policies, we've been creating loads of these with signature patterns. We've installed a number of privileged access management solutions across the board, and we've been working quite closely with AppCheck around vulnerability assessments, automated web and application scanning, and rolling that out to our customers. There's been a huge increase in people actually delivering their services from the internet and the web, and with AppCheck built into our customer solutions, we feel it gives a really good solution to all users. In terms of our security operations center running from Belfast, we have a full managed service running with AppCheck as well, but we also identified a gap around 12 months ago. We brought on 12 staff from the Belfast Met Cyber Security Academy, a graduate scheme, and we brought them in, trained them up, and then we officially launched our security operations center in October 2019. We've got 12 full-time resources covering a 24/7 coverage with multiple contracts, and all on a single platform of a SIEM product. We monitor network devices, we do servers, clients, PCs, security systems, and user behavior analytics. And we respond to alerts, we do proactive monitoring, we identify vulnerabilities, and we also patch vulnerabilities. With AppCheck running, we're also able to remediate some vulnerabilities and give you an alert of them before they come. And then I'll hand over to Samir to give you the full flavor of AppCheck.
Thank you, Peter. I'm just going to take control of the screen here myself now. Hopefully I remember how to do this. You can see that. Does that come through okay? Peter, can you see that, or Chris?
Yeah, we can see that clear.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks everybody for joining this morning. I'm just going to load up my presentation here. But just to introduce myself initially, my name's Samir Rahan, and I look after our partner network within the UK and Ireland, and various other partners that we work with within Europe and also in Asia as well. Now, I'm very, very glad that the guys at Novasco have brought me along today to take a look at how we've been helping organizations via, first of all, through the Novasco's SOC offering, and also as a standalone product in which some companies use by themselves and without the full managed service. So with the unprecedented times we're all facing ourselves at the moment, and very strange times it has been indeed, we wanted to do a little bit around automated vulnerability testing and why we're kind of seeing an industry as it being as important as it ever has been in previous years or beyond. So just before we go into things, in a bit of detail, it's probably worth me just giving you a little bit of an outline about who AppCheck are first and foremost. I am aware of some people who have joined today who are familiar with AppCheck. A couple of people have probably seen AppCheck as well already in terms of a demo and discussing stuff with Peter, etc., and some of the guys at Nova School currently. But for those who haven't, AppCheck is a web application and infrastructure vulnerability assessment platform. I suppose the terminology you want to use is it's a vulnerability scanner, but it's much more than your traditional vulnerability scanner. And what we're looking to do here is we're actively using penetration testing methodologies to find, rationalize, and execute vulnerabilities using safe exploitation techniques on the likes of your websites and web applications, your key infrastructure, whether it be internal devices or external IPs, etc. So that's pretty much AppCheck in a very quick nutshell, I suppose. Not going into great detail other than that at this point. Just before we get things going, I think it probably serves to provide a little bit of credibility for those who are not too familiar with AppCheck. You know, we're working for a wide range of organizations, from public sector all the way to sort of more well-known retail brands. And we quite recently brought on board, which has been exciting for us with the whole COVID-19 thing, is NHS England, amongst other NHS trusts we currently work with, and that's really a ply one we're happy to be working with everything going on at the moment and the increase in attacks we have been seeing. But what will I be covering specifically? As I mentioned, with the outbreak currently COVID-19, which at the minute, thank God, it looks as though the cases are plateauing. But we're going to specifically looking at, why companies shouldn't take their eye off security at this current point in time. So I'm going to discuss a little bit about what we've seen so far from a security perspective around vulnerabilities, and also what we've seen specifically at AppCheck in recent weeks and months, why we think vulnerability testing is more important than ever, what can you do as an organization, how we can specifically help your business in preventing a breach during this time, and then a brief demo at the very end to show you how all this works. One thing to keep in mind while I'm going through this as well is that not just AppCheck being a standalone platform, software that's able to help you, etc. It's the fantastic expertise that Peter and the team over there put together from a SOC perspective and a security perspective that really lends its hand to having a really strong hybrid approach to your ongoing security practice. And that's something to keep in mind when you see the platform in a moment or two. But getting into the meat and bones of everything, really, what have we seen so far? So the UK, as we know, and this is some research and some articles over the last sort of 6-7 weeks or so, the UK itself is not well enough prepared for working from home. Now, we're probably all aware of that. There's probably a lot of people on the call today who all of a sudden at the drop of a hat went from being an organization in a building, no doubt, and overnight everybody's working from home, and the fantastic individuals from the IT perspective have really come to the forefront and keeping sort of businesses operating from an economy point of view. Now, with that, there lends its challenges as well. And one key element is security. Security is also an element of not being prepared for working from home. It's an additional area, an additional area of your security posture that now needs to be looked at and met head on, as opposed to putting the head in the sand, so to speak. Implementing a working from home plan has opened up many doors to more attacks and brand new security challenges for most. And it's the same will apply for everybody on the call today. And with that, what we're talking about here is literally overnight, as I just mentioned, you will have made, a lot of companies that I've been speaking to have made changes to key infrastructure or to their websites or their web applications in order to continue to engage customers and employees over this interesting and different time really as a business. So one thing I want you to think about when we're going through this, have you introduced anything, have you changed anything within your networks or within your websites or applications? Something as subtle as messaging about COVID-19 potentially, something as subtle as a VPN. Many companies I've spoken to have made these changes, and what we know from a security perspective is that organizations typically will have introduced, unbeknown to themselves, a major security flaw, which is pretty common when you make these types of changes. And unless you're checking, you have no way to really find out or know if you're currently vulnerable. We've seen a huge rise in cyber attacks. Peter touched on it at the very start. Across multiple industries, two that really stood out for me is there's been the double amount of attacks on web applications, specifically in healthcare services and healthcare providers, and also charities, which is really scary, to be honest with you. And I'm sure a lot of people will really resonate this with the fact that this is a key infrastructure as a country, as an island, or whatever, wherever you're from at the minute. Or globally, it doesn't matter. It's not the UK and Ireland specifically. It's also overseas, and that's really scary to think about. That there is obviously criminals, hackers, third-party states that really still do not care. That there's things are difficult at the minute, and the healthcare system specifically and charities are currently overwhelmed as it is. So that's something to keep in mind, and it's quite a scary thought. So what have we seen specifically at AppCheck? Now, this isn't a real in-depth PhD study, very light analysis of some things we've seen over the last sort of couple of months. In the month of March specifically, we've not got around to looking at April just yet, but in March specifically, we ran roughly 14,000 scans against customer websites, web applications, and infrastructure. Now, the interesting thing with when one of our security analysts was looking at the stats specifically, he actually compared it to January and February, and there was a roughly a 30% increase in high impact vulnerabilities. Now that's really interesting. So all of a sudden there's a big spike in vulnerabilities. So based on what we've discussed so far, and we've come up with two theories as to why we think this may be. The first one is, I kind of hinted at it a moment ago, companies have made a lot of changes to their websites, web apps, and key infrastructure in recent weeks. Some without their normal change control plans in place, some just doing it so quick to keep things going, and rightly so. It would have been difficult for you to do anything but that at that time, to the point that you probably, or there's a higher chance, a more likely chance you've introduced a vulnerability. The second point, the second area where we're, based on the vulnerabilities we have seen, where we're thinking, is there a potential for maybe yourself as well to have missed this, is a lot of companies have seemed to have either, one, forgotten to do any type of infrastructure or signature-based patching on specific CVE updates from vendors, or have put it so far down the bottom of the pile, it's kind of gotten forgotten about. And now, as the dust has settled, from AppCheck's perspective, what we're seeing, and there's a wider concern, is that we want customers to get on with the patching and start improving it now again. Understanding now the dust has settled, things were in place last sort of 6 weeks, the changes all happened. And the reason being, there's a bit of a perfect storm brewing. There's a massive increase in attacks. And if we're seeing more vulnerabilities prevalent in networks and web applications currently, then there's a cause for concern for all, unless you're checking regularly. And one last one I'll point out on this is there's been a huge rise in phishing emails as well. The AppCheck isn't a phishing expert. It's not really our specific key area, but one thing that we do, and one vulnerability that doesn't get blamed enough for phishing attacks, is a nice little vulnerability called cross-site scripting, which some organizations on the call today may or may not be familiar with. I'm not going to go into it in detail, but it's a key vulnerability we find time and time again, and it makes the phishing attack much higher and more likely successful in terms of catching out maybe with some of your employees or customers as well. So that's what we've seen so far across sort of different industries, and also from AppCheck specifically. So why are we saying that security testing should be more important now as ever? I kind of hinted on it being a perfect storm. One is online trading has become the only option for some organizations to continue revenue streams as frontline shops and businesses. You cannot open those currently with still social distancing measures in place. So you need to continue to work remotely. I don't know about everybody else on the call, but my online purchasing has really gone up drastically. I'm practically shopping online every other day for just probably rubbish in most cases. But I'm sure it's the same for many folk at home at the minute. Now, we've had in the last 6 weeks, now unfortunately with them being larger retail organisations, not being able to operate on the high street, having to furlough employees, which is quite sad, to say the least. These organisations want to continue to operate so that when this dies down, there's jobs to go back to. And one of the key elements that they've pinpointed now is their BCP plan from an IT perspective and keeping things moving is online trade. And if anybody on the call today does any online trading at all, can you weather a breach during this period as well? Could you, if you had a significant vulnerability on a website or application where you're doing your trading, how would the organization stack up with that, and on top of what is currently a very strange economic situation currently? Now, one reason that we've ended up working with a couple of retail companies, with some new ones in the last sort of 6-7 weeks, is they've spotted a massive gap in their security where they may traditionally get a one-off pen test or maybe a biannual manual penetration test. But there's a gap. The next one isn't scheduled for 3 or 4 months down the line. Their concern is actually we're doing more trading online than we ever have. We need to secure it. We need to carry on testing for vulnerabilities. They've also made a lot of fundamental changes as well. So if you've done this or you've added a new site to trade, then please think about the security posture of that currently and really consider maybe looking at if there's any gaps or flaws there. Another key element, I've already touched on this, I'm not going to dwell on it too much longer, but I'm sure many organizations on the call today have made fundamental changes to web apps or infrastructure that will likely have introduced vulnerabilities. I've mentioned that the scans we ran in March versus other months, there's a significant increase in vulnerabilities across all our client networks and web apps, which is telling us that if you have made these changes, good chance you've introduced something, and if you're not checking, you may not be aware. For many organizations, compliance measures aren't going away. I've been speaking to a new customer brought on board, and their main goal for this year was to achieve ISO 27001. That goal isn't changing regardless of what's going on at the moment. And as part of that, they still need to have a vulnerability management platform in place to tackle that specifically. As an example, maybe GDPR is still high on the agenda, PCI. These measures are not disappearing as a result, albeit there may be a little bit of leniency potentially with the likes of GDPR, etc. That's not confirmed, by the way, but it's still important to be looking at your compliance measures as well. And that we've discussed this already. Look, hackers aren't stopping as a result of this. If anything, results this will result in more companies being hacked as the situation is exploited, unfortunately, which is why between ourselves and Nova Scope, we really want to help you to understand what your current security posture looks like and if there's any flaws or potential gaps there currently. So how can we help with this problem specifically? Now, I'm looking at this from AppCheck perspective here. Now, the key thing, as I've mentioned already at the start, Nova Scope have a full team of experts who are able to help monitor, manage the service as well, and give you that extra hand-holding, but just keeping it simplistic terms today. First and foremost, with keeping within social distancing measures, at the end of the day, it's all cloud-based. So you can test from the comfort of your home, whether it's for Nova Scope, yourselves, or whatever way you want to do it. Basically, you're able to test for vulnerabilities without having to leave your machine and your offices at home or your kitchen, wherever you're working from. Setting up the license, setting up the testing is extremely simple, and all the access to your dashboards and stuff are done by your online portal. Nobody has to go on site and download and put stuff on your infrastructure internally, download kit or anything like that for this. Between ourselves and Nova Scope, we provide the whole onboarding, discuss how it all operates. Again, it's all pretty simple. And one thing that's really helped some organizations in recent weeks is absolutely no lead times. I have some customers in the recent weeks who have spun up a brand new website because of COVID-19 to operate, and the fact that they can run a test as soon as it went live to make sure that they were happy from a security standpoint, you can test pretty much instantly with the platform. What about your internal assets? Now, with people not allowed to leave home to work unless it's necessary, although we're going to have some relaxation of the rules, so to speak, in the coming weeks, What we do know is if you're working from a business that does not require you, the likelihood is that if you don't require to go onto the business, i.e. maybe like a frontline shop or a retail or a restaurant, these types of places, which are still a few months away for now, the likelihood is you're going to be asked to continue to work from home anyway. So a lot of companies have been struggling to do any internal manual penetration testing in the short term. And a real good case study is I've just onboarded a quite large law firm with one of my partners who unfortunately had a manual penetration test for the month of May. It was an on-site test. Now, because of everything going on, they've locked up their office currently. They have decided to postpone that till November, December for the on-site stuff. And what they've opted to do currently is deploy AppCheck to test the internal web applications and network that they wanted to do in May. So how do they do that, and how can you do that if internal is still important? So we can provide you with an internal solution that is simply a virtual machine that you can, it's very straightforward. You just download the VM, it'll sit within your network. And again, as I talked about accessing from home, you can get onto your dashboards online on the portal from the comfort of your house again, which is a key thing currently at the moment, and it's less risk on health really. And this is going to allow you to keep your internal networks and internal web applications secure. Continuous automated testing. So organizations can use AppCheck to run these tests throughout the lockdown period and during the coming months where it's going to be a bit of a strange time. But it's much more than that. It's much more beyond this period, really. AppCheck, the way it's designed, is allows you to test an unlimited amount of times over a specific period, i.e., potentially a 12-month period, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. So you can test on an ongoing basis. And the reason this is important is that vulnerabilities or security hasn't gotten important all of a sudden in these few weeks when attacks have been increasing. It's been there anyway, and it's become slowly over the years has become a much more pivotal part of the security or the actual IT spectrum. Now, with that said, the reason ongoing security we would advise has been important is that you may continue to make changes over the next few years to infrastructure and web applications. You may have projects in the pipeline. What is the security posture of these projects look like, and are you introducing vulnerabilities unbeknown to yourself? Another key one is new threats and exploit are released daily. I'm sure you see this major updates being released on a weekly, daily basis. How can you confirm you're not vulnerable from your latest test to the most recent test? You wouldn't be able to do that without continuous testing. And the continuous vulnerability testing and regular reporting as well will give you a clear idea of your current business threat landscape, which is also pivotal to get eyes on what's happening with your security posture. And one of the nice things about working alongside Novascope from this perspective and the introduction that Peter had given us to the SOC, those guys can automate everything for you from their the SOC center and allow you to, in real time, when we pick up vulnerabilities using the software, alert you during the SOC service as well. So we've got organizations doing that currently, which allows you to stay one step ahead of the game and be more proactive, and not just as a one-off test is the key thing. So what about the quality of the testing and the technical highlights, so to speak? AppCheck itself was designed from the ground up by an expert team of manual penetration testers to really apply similar pen testing methodologies as a hacker. And really what we're looking to do here is maximize coverage and accuracy. Most of us, I'll go through in the platform in a moment, but things that we're doing, we're looking for things within the OWASP top 10 from a web app point of view. Now, a key one that's highlighted there is first principle testing. For those that are familiar on the call, AppCheck is not just a signature-based tool. We are applying pen testing methodologies to rationalize, find the vulnerability, and exploit it using safe exploitation techniques. And that's really unique to us and how we do that from a automation point of view. And again, if anybody wants a little bit more information about that level of detail, we can obviously set up a more in-depth private discussion around that. So in summary, from what I've talked about so far, as we know, look, hackers, they have no morals. They're going to carry on trying to exploit during the pandemic, and as we've seen, probably more so than ever. One thing I would probably recommend doing as well is look, reach out to those security experts at Novasco, Peter and his team, maybe your account managers at Novasco, to get you in touch with the right person based on maybe your query. This is a time to be proactive as opposed to waiting. If it's possible not to wait, that is, and taking a look and see if there's anything there that could be catching you out in the coming months. Where possible, you should be looking to improve or at least maintain some form of security testing during the lockdown and beyond. Please try not to forget about the whole patching piece, but I appreciate in the last 6-7 weeks, based on the stats we've seen, very difficult time for a lot of IT managers, directors, engineers who've been tasked with keeping companies operating. It's just to bring it back to the forefront and have a look and see if there's things that we've forgotten in the last few months that could again be exploited. Look at things like automated vulnerability scanning and testing for vulnerabilities on a regular basis. And one thing I typically would discuss in more detail to a lot of organizations is that proactivity is key. You're only as good as your last sort of test, we would typically say. So if you run some tests today, you make some remediations, fantastic. But what about next month when the releases and stuff come out? Can you be sure you're not vulnerable to those? And then finally, before I go into a bit of a demo, really, the last thing to discuss today is that everybody on the call, we want to take this opportunity to offer you a free vulnerability assessment based on everything that's going on today. Now, this could be significant for a couple of reasons. So what we will do is run a vulnerability check on a couple of your web applications, some external IPs, and give you an idea what your current security posture is looking like. And the reason this might be important, you could be one of those companies that have made some drastic changes or even some minimal changes in recent weeks. Have you introduced any vulnerabilities potentially? Also, from an e-commerce standpoint, if you've made changes or if you've added a new site to transact with clients or employees interact, then potentially again have those got vulnerabilities in them. Maybe you've not made any changes, which is fine. I know some companies haven't, and have already been set up for this type of stuff in terms of working from home. But with the increase in cyber attacks, what does the current security posture look like for you today anyway? Is there vulnerabilities there regardless? Is there things that have been missed over recent months? Take a look and find out, because what we will do is provide you with a full report with the remedial advice, and we can talk you through what we found, etc. on a call. I do know there's one or two might be on the call already. You've already taken the free assessment, and I know we've picked up some significant findings, and one was an extremely rare one actually, which is very interesting to go through. So you don't really know until you check. So before I wrap things up, I thought it might be worth showing some people a very brief 10-minute overview of the platform. And by the way, if there is any questions, we will certainly get those finished up at the end or answered at the end. So I am currently in the Novasco platform for this is a fake account, Mr. John Doe here at company A. So what we're going to take you through is just a couple little things in which I think is key to highlight today. So to put context behind this, this is one of the overview dashboard pages you would get via either if you had your own license or via the SOC via a managed service. But to put a little bit of context behind it, I'm just going to show you setting up a test to scan initially, very, very briefly. Then we'll look at two vulnerabilities and what the remediation device looks like. Then we'll look at the reporting, have a quick look at the report, what that looks like, and then we'll wrap things up really. So if I click on the scan here, as you can see, there's a set of templates in here. Now these are all set up default to get the best results. I'm not going to go through them all, obviously time permitting today. Default settings is going to be the best one to get the best results, knowing very little about what your technology stack is or your infrastructure looks like. But you may, be able to let the guy at the SOC know, or you know yourself that actually a lot of our technology stacks, WordPress or Magento or Drupal or things like that from a web app point of view. We got specific things with GDPR I'm not going to go on to today. One thing that I like to highlight, we try to keep the finger on the pulse. New vulnerabilities are coming out, as I say, every day. We update the tool on a weekly basis for new flaws that do come out with our research team. But when there's something huge that comes out that seems to be particularly interesting within the media, we'll write a plugin for templates in here to allow you to do a test pretty much instantaneously, see if you're vulnerable. One a few weeks ago with the Ghost Cat one, some people might be familiar with, that was a particular infrastructure vulnerability. And again, I think this is quite a good one, Pulse Secure VPN, which was a vulnerability that was going around from about January, February. So if you've introduced sort of VPNs in recent weeks, potentially this vulnerability, if it's not been updated properly, is this something that you may have an issue with currently, unbeknown to yourself? And one final one was the card skimming detection. No longer, we don't have it down as critical anymore because most people know about it and sort of remediate it, is the particular vulnerability that caught British Airways out around about 18 months ago. So there was a lot of people who had a lot of interest in that at the time. But keep it simple today. I'm just going to click on standard scan here, as you can see. This takes me to set definition of a scan. So in here, all these settings are predefined to get the best results. So you can just call this example. You can schedule these to run whenever you want. So whether it's on the weekend, run over the weekend, come back on a Monday or Tuesday, get a full set of results. The beauty of this, it's ongoing. It's not just a one-off. You can do it weekly, monthly, whatever it may be. Most of our customers would typically have this run on a scheduled basis every single month. There's a good window there to make remediations and wait until the next round of testing comes around to look and pick up any pieces that may have been missed. Targets is pretty much just where we're telling AppCheck what we're testing at any given time. So I've input an application in this case. You can put in a range of IPs, VPNs, host names. Again, I'm not going to dwell on that for too much today. There's various different settings in here. We do things like authenticated scanning, authenticated testing. So if you've got web applications, we're going to be able to authenticate those and get inside as a basic user. I'm not going to go through this in detail today, but a unique bit of functionality we do have is GhostScript, and this allows AppCheck to sort of bridge the gap between a human pen test and more automation, where we're able to drive the tool even further. Again, this is something that we can talk about more detail on a different call if there's an interest to explore this in a bit more detail. We do things like API scanning, etc. Again, I'm not going to dwell on all the plugins today. In terms of infrastructure, it's the kind of stuff that you would expect. Infrastructure scanning has probably been around a hell of a lot longer than the web app side. So it's kind of the things that you may already have in place potentially or aware of. But we're looking for outdated patching, outdated services per configuration. We do credential scanning on SSH and Windows. There's advanced settings in here that you can play around with. We've got port scanning built in as well. So this is all part of it. I'm not going to go into that in great detail. It's as simple as press save. And this will kick off on the weekend that we've scheduled there a few moments ago. You can press scan and it'll start instantaneously. There's a hell of a lot of really interesting cutting edge plugins in here. I'm not going to dwell on today, but as you can see, there's many things we're doing. Again, I think this probably lends itself to a more in-depth conversation down the line. So that's setting the test up. With time permitting, I'm just going to jump into two vulnerabilities and then wrap up with the reports. So we ran 3 particular spec scans over a specific period for this customer. If I click into this particular one here, the beauty of AppCheck is you will have a history of results over any given time. And before COVID-19, we were finding a lot of companies who now work with other organizations in partnership, or when a company is maybe procuring your software or something from your business, they're now starting to ask questions about securing their data that they're utilizing with you. And they may ask about what kind of vulnerability testing are you doing on an ongoing basis, and this is really lends its hand to that as well. There's loads of filtering and reporting you can do. Again, I'm not going to dwell on it all today, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of vulnerabilities. So the vulnerability reporting is all done to CVSS standards, so low, medium, high vulnerabilities, and it kind of speaks for itself. But going to the high vulnerabilities, we're talking about high impact, high probability, and a high chance of causing more damage to your business brand and financial implications. So I'm going to jump into reflective cross-site scripting because so we found 57 vulnerabilities, 8 different instances of this particular vulnerability. So I'll just click into this one here. Usually the same fix for the same instance will be able to remediate all. But AppCheck provides a description of what the vulnerability is and then a basic solution to fix the vulnerability. I mentioned earlier about the phishing emails and cross-site scripting. This is that bigger sort of web app vulnerability that lends its hand really well to that attack and makes it a higher chance for being successful. In terms of technical details, for those on the call that are a little bit more technical than others potentially, and you want to go into that a little more detail and understanding of how we've managed to execute the vulnerability, AppCheck provides the exact payload to trigger the vulnerability. And now this is going one step further than your basic sort of signature-based tool. We're executing vulnerabilities using safe exploitation. We're building a rationale and physically injecting this script into the web app safely to show you we've managed to do it. And the reason that's important, it makes AppCheck a hell of a lot more accurate and a lot less false positive prone as well. Now, there may be some on the call today thinking, well, I don't want to go into that level of technical detail anyway. So you can keep it to the basics. But the good thing is, again, with Novisco, their guys and Peter's team are there to really take that burden away if you so wish. And they will be able to liaise with you and break this down maybe in more of a higher overview way, as opposed to going too in depth with the vulnerabilities and discuss the remediations and what to do next in terms of fixing. So there's different options in terms of that type of service. And it also comes with a workflow, so you can assign vulnerabilities to different people and different teams. So you can have as many users on here as you want, by the way. So whether it's third-party development companies who manage your websites for you, you can assign them a vulnerability and say, hey, I need this fixed ASAP. It's a big vulnerability. There's a ticketing system that you can do it. Fix ASAP as an example. Press update. They would receive an email alert that you've assigned them a vulnerability, etc. Hopefully, what we would see is they would mark it down as fixed. So once you've marked it down as fixed and press update, you can then rerun to find the vulnerability. So the beauty of AppCheck is not only when somebody tells you to fix the vulnerability, you can confirm that by rechecking. The option isn't selected in this account, the spec account, but you will have an option as well to just rescan for this one particular vulnerability. And that, again, just gives you more control and eyes on what's going on with your current threat landscape. And then the final vulnerability really is an infrastructure vulnerability to give you an idea. So in this case, we found 5 high vulnerabilities. So what do we find in here? So let's have a look at this. Remote code execution, MS10 vulnerability. Typically with the infrastructure, it's a little bit more simplistic. It's banner checks. We're looking for, as I say, known CVEs that are outdated or are not patched correctly. And typically it's just, you're running some old software or some old version. Here's the latest build, and go and download. Technical details, you're running on the old version, that's the new version, and then the same for the workflow of the infrastructure as it is with the web application vulnerabilities as well. But again, you've got the support team there from Novisco's point of view. And then final thing to really highlight, and I'm going to wrap things up really, is the Word document. So basically, what you can either do by clicking a button here, you can build your own Word report, or by the SOC that can provide reports for you. So depending on the size of the report, 20 to 30 seconds, build the report for you. And the beauty of this is, the real beauty of this is that there's absolutely no downtime in terms of actually making reports up and stuff like that. It's done pretty much instantaneously. And we do know from other people that sometimes that can be difficult to do when you have to go out and create your own reports. It's very similar to sort of like a pen testing report you may have had in the past. Contents of what we find, what we've done, the scope of engagement in here, what constitutes a low, medium, high vulnerability, a nice little summary of the vulnerabilities that we have found from a higher viewpoint if you're discussing this with maybe board level or management level that are not so technical as yourself on the call. And then obviously every single vulnerability, affected host, remediations, technical analysis is all in the report format, as well as the interface as well. So that's just an idea of the actual reporting. And then the final thing to show and to wrap things up for today's webinar is the overview page. The overview page is really nice for individually, and it's unique to every individual who's got access. You can create and remove your own widgets in here, and it provides sort of tracking trends, reports on who's been doing what, the amount of vulnerabilities, all that type of stuff. And my favorite one's probably this tracker one, and it's a little bit like, I suppose, we're seeing these graphs every day about COVID-19. The whole idea from a security perspective, the likelihood is if you start running tests today, there's a good chance you'll have a peak straight away. There's probably vulnerabilities if you haven't done any checks in recent times. If that is the case, and we start finding vulnerabilities, you start implementing fixes and remediations, you would like to hope that this curve will start to curtail and it will start to flatten out from a security perspective. And that's what we're trying to do as well within vulnerability management. We're trying to find the peak and bring it down into a plateau, but then continuously scanning and testing on an ongoing basis so that there's never that level again of a peak. There may be the odd spike or two, like a peak and trough, and that might be because you made or introduced a brand new project and it may have vulnerabilities. And once you get on top of them again, it kind of flatlines and it looks after itself then. So that's something that some of our customers really like. That just as a higher overview. Some customers, admittedly, just want to have vulnerabilities found, make fixes, and move on with their lives. Again, can't argue with any of those. It depends on the individual at the end of the day. So, guys, for everybody on the call today, that is pretty much it from a AppCheck point of view myself. I hope you found that insightful and useful. I would recommend everybody that has that's on the call today that has the ability to run a free assessment or a vulnerability assessment to get in contact with Novasco or your account managers or whoever it is on your end. I can provide the slides after as well. Thank God the presentation has decided to break at the very end. But if anybody needs any more information from myself, I can supply my email to the guys over there, and you can get in contact with me, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have post webinar as well. So yeah, final note from myself, just to really think about what your current security posture looks like. Have you made changes in recent weeks? And if not, when was the last time you ran some form of test? And start to think of your security cap on, about your current security posture and what that's going to look like over the next 12 months. And yeah, run the assessment and see if there's any vulnerabilities that we can help you with initially. If anything, there's absolutely nothing to lose there, but the guys will be in touch to let you know what you need from that perspective. So I'm going to hand over to I think Chris to wrap up, I believe, and just say thank you very much for listening to myself specifically.
Thank you so much for that, Samir. And to Peter, of course, it was really interesting. If I can ask you one question, Samir, if you're still there for audio.
Yes, of course.
I remember seeing probably about 2 months ago now, there was a report, it actually got carried by most major press, that there were major hacking groups that had said, because of COVID and because of the risk, they were going to step down their attacks, especially on things that you mentioned, health and charity there. Mm-hmm. But equally, I've been seeing constant reports of the attacks that are coming in. Has this caused any increase in hacking groups? Like, are there more organizations doing this? Are the sort of primary attacking groups? Yeah, expanding.
It's a good question, actually. In terms of more groups, I suppose, I haven't read loads of studies, and I certainly wouldn't be the expert to talk about new groups that have been formed as part of this. That's for sure. But one thing I definitely know from articles I've been reading up on and analysing with some of our own security engineers to do a lot of research on our end for new vulnerabilities and stuff like that, is that some of the things that they've been discussing is we think that a lot of people have got a little bit more time in their hands currently, I think, in the world. And for those people who, whether not everybody's doing it maliciously, they may be trying things, potentially, poking at things on web apps, websites, infrastructure, and, they have a little bit of I suppose, a hobby with this type of stuff, and they're infiltrating, they're doing stuff, and and it's causing problems. So that's one thing I would say is a potential for why there's been an increase. So people have got a bit more time in their hands and are playing around this type of software and stuff.
Samir, sorry to jump in there as well.
Yeah,
Chris, there's around 2,000 domains per day are being registered by hacking groups. So that's every single day. There's 2,000 new domains being spun up to redivert your traffic towards. So increase in spam, phishing links, etc., etc. But 2,000 a day is probably an increase of about 1,000. That's an increase of just malware redirects as well.
Yeah, that's in line with what I saw about there being, or was the major group for saying, we're going to hold off. There seem to be so many more. I don't know if methods is the right word, but routes to market, shall we say, for the hackers.
Yeah, I mean, the first week of COVID-19, there was a hospital in the Czech Republic which was targeted and wiped out with a ransomware attack on the very first weekend of COVID. So while they're facing all the external pressures and all the major groups say they're not going to do anything, someone definitely did target that hospital and took them offline.
Yeah, we had another one that we did see was I think it was in Germany, a hospital who were trying to purchase PPE from a third-party supplier online, and the hacker had basically redirected the website or some form or turned it into what looked like the main website for this company, but was now a malicious site that the hospital was interacting with. and I believe they stole a considerable amount of money when I was reading on that one. So that was quite interesting as well.
I suppose where I'm using my downtime to watch Netflix, if you're a malicious hacker, you're probably using your time slightly worse. Well, thanks for that very much, guys. So if anyone does have any questions for follow-up, you can contact myself and Lisa at marketing@novasco.com, and we'll put you together with Peter, Samir, the SOC team to follow that up on. If you want to watch this back, it will be on our YouTube channel from later today or first thing tomorrow morning. Yeah, thanks so much. Our next webinar is on Thursday, May 14th. It's on Windows Virtual Desktop and Azure, being run in conjunction with Microsoft. So hopefully some of you will find that interesting, especially with the amount of new Azure territory that's being spun up of late. And it fits into some security concerns there that I know definitely need to be factored in. So yeah, I'll let everyone get on with their day. Samir, Peter, thank you very much. And thanks everyone for joining.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
guys.
you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now.